Even now, a week removed from the NFL draft, at least day one of the NFL draft, there are still tons of questions ahead of the Chicago Bears. Yes, they added talent. Yes, they added scheme fits. And the players in this draft class who have talent and can help this team, but the real question still ahead of the Chicago Bears on how do they fix some of their biggest perceived weaknesses heading into the roster. So the question that we're going to ask here today is, hey, Poles, what is the actual plan here? With offensive tackle still being a question, depth at the defensive line position, and how we're going to get to quarterbacks. We're talking about it all and more, plus dive into the mailbag right after this. What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. So the NFL draft is coming and gone, right? NFL free agency is coming. The Chicago Bears sit now with about $10 million in cap space. Most of that's going to go to their rookie, or basically all of that's going to go to their rookie class. So even though we can have speculation on what veterans the Chicago Bears could still add that can very well help this team, which we did on yesterday's episode, there are still a lot of uncertainty based off this team, right? And, you know, the draft conversation is going to be one that rages on for a while. Nobody's going to have answers on the draft until we take the football field and we see how those players that we drafted do play. We see how some of our bigger questions with this team and bigger kind of, shortcomings with the team actually end up holding this team back or not. But I think when you look at specifically in the NFC North, right, this is one of the deepest, if not the deepest division in football. So when you have some pretty big shortcomings on your roster, they stand out pretty heavily on a Chicago Bear, on any team for that matter, right? So, you know, if you're the Chicago Bears, you are really looking at this to really try to look at and figure out where can you find your balance at with this team? Where can you make that next step, right? We've talked, Ben Johnson, everybody's talked about making that next step for the Chicago Bears. And right now, we just don't have that, right? Where it looks like clearly on paper. So what are the biggest questions left ahead of the Chicago Bears? We're going to answer that on today's episode. The first one is, of course, the defensive line questions. And, you know, we didn't do really much of anything as we thought to really address that in the draft. We just didn't, right? So, you know, while we didn't get Jordan Van Den Berg in here, who I do think, you know, is a solid enough player, the defensive line is still a huge question mark right now. Jordan Van Den Berg, who we got in the 6th round, he brings a lot of the athleticism and speed that the Chicago Bears wanted. No doubt about that. Like that pick, take for what you will in that pick. I don't mind that pick, especially in the 6th round. I think the Chicago Bears got themselves a really good player with that one. But the question is, how much does he help this Bears team this year? And then it's termed as the edge rushers. What do the Chicago Bears do? They didn't take any traditional edge rushers in this draft at all, right? And so you're looking on a lot of internal development for this team, and that's where the Bears really are with this, is looking for internal development. Austin Booker, right? You're hoping that he's going to make a step. You're hoping that Grady Jarrett, you know, we've seen players before have rough first years with new teams, and they adapt better. The coaching may adapt better to how they want to use them and scheme them up, right? But there's no doubt about it that the Bears didn't make the improvement on paper to where one of the Bears' biggest issues last year really got addressed in a meaningful way. Now, for what that's worth, you know, your Austin Booker, you know, was on pace. Like if you look at the pace that he played with, he would have had about 10 sacks via that pace. But, you know, pace isn't always the thing that you can extrapolate out, right? But Austin Booker did also look in preseason last year like he was ready to make that step. He couldn't stay healthy. So now the question is Montez going to give you another 10-plus sack season, right? With Ben Johnson saying that we're going to coach them better as well. Does Austin Booker make a necessary step? Do you get better performance out of Dayo Odeyingbo as well as other players on this roster? You know, shout out to my brother Pat, the designer over on the Windy City Breeze. He talked about, you know, a plan to possibly use Shamar Turner as a defensive end. I can't say that I see that personally. Like, I don't know if that's going to actually work for the Chicago Bears team, but no, the Bears are going to have to get creative to figure out and to solve one of their their weakest positions, and the fact that they didn't get to the quarterback very much last year, right? So you're looking at Austin Booker, you're looking at Daniel Hardy, you're looking at Shamar Turner, you're looking at those guys to really make a necessary step forward. Now, you added some depth guys that I like. I like Kentavious Street. I like Neville Gallimore. As depth players, James Lynch, as depth players, I like those guys. Perfectly fine. But I think also for the Bears, when you look at it, as far as getting to the quarterback, the thing that I'm looking at with this one is that last year, Dennis Allen didn't have his cornerbacks healthy. And I know we're talking about edge and defensive line, but I really think with the way that Dennis Allen's scheme works, right, especially with the third linebacker spot can be used by actual linebacker. You can put in a defensive lineman. Sometimes you'll drop him back there. Sometimes you'll put a defensive back there, right? And we didn't have that because of all the injuries. Now you're bringing Zay Frazier back as, a rookie who didn't play last year. Kyler Gordon's hopefully going to be healthy. You added in, some other players to that can help. We'll see what Malik Muhammad does as well. So hopefully in that, like, we're seeing the more ability to get to the quarterback in a non-traditional way. And that's I think, going to be the thing that really, if this system works, especially without the improvement on edge, you get the improvement from Austin Booker, but also just the scheme. Every defensive play caller has their scheme. With Matt Eberflus, it was interior defensive line pressure that we never really got. For Dennis Allen is how he schemes up those defensive backs, how he uses those in run blitzing, in pass blitzing, and all those type of things. That's where I think if we're going to make a step in our ability to get to the quarterback, it's probably going to be that paired with a little internal development. But there's just no doubt about it. One of the biggest question marks for this team is the defensive line and how that's going to work out for the Chicago Bears. So defensive line, still a huge question for that. And I'll add into that also how we're going to stop the run. We were a terrible run defensive team last year. And hopefully, the speed that we added with Devin Bush is going to help with that, right? Like DeMarco Jackson was solid enough in those areas as well. Having that is going to help, theoretically with that also. So, the Bears are hoping that those things are going to help make steps in the right direction in those areas. And we just got to see if that's going to end up working out for this team. The next biggest question as well, and I put this on the list, not because we don't have talent in this room, but again, because losing DJ Moore was huge for the Chicago Bears team. Because you had somebody who was always ready, right? He stayed ready, always ready to go. You could not call his number for 10 plays, and the play that you do call it on, he's going to be ready to go. He was always healthy. He always made the big plays when we needed it the most. So now you're coming into the season with Luther Burden and Rome Odunze being co-number ones, number two, whatever you want to look at it with. But then everything behind them is a question mark. Khalif Raymond is a solid vet, right? And Ben Johnson has talked about the fact that he believes that Khalif is going to be able to help this team. But then you also have Zavion Thomas, who you just drafted, right? And he was one of the fastest players in this draft. What he can bring from a slot receiver position with that speed could be absolutely huge for this team. But, the wide receiver room is going to have to show out and show up. And I think, we're going to see some non-traditional things with that one. I think Sam Roush is going to allow Colston Loveland to line up as a slot sometimes too with his route running and what he can do. But it goes to another one of those things where scheme, right? We talked about wanting to add speed to this team, those type of things. And so scheme is going to be what creates the separation there. I think the Bears still do have a very talented wide receiver room. I want to be clear on that. I'm not trying to shit on the wide receivers that we do have there because I do think it's more talented than some people are giving it credit for. But like just the loss of DJ and how he was always ready, that's not something that's just easily replaceable. So when you look at it, of course, you still got Jahade Walker, who had some moments last year for us. J.P. Richardson, an undrafted free agent last year, who's another guy that can do a lot of things at 5'11", right? Khalif Raymond. You're looking at those guys to really step up and see what they can bring for the Chicago Bears team this year, and we'll see what they can end up doing. But that wide receiver room, just have the question on how it's going to balance and how it's going to work out. And with Rome and Luther Burden dealing with injuries last year, having a guy like DJ Moore who was always healthy, always ready to go, and now that's missing for your team, that's going to be quite a big question to overcome as well. And then, of course, the changes on the offensive line. And I think we're not talking about it enough, right? I'm not saying that we need to be hugely worried about the offensive line. Jonah Jackson, still here, really good. Joe Tooney, he was amazing for the Chicago Bears last year. We already know what Darnell Wright is, right? But then the center and the left tackle position, we have question marks there. Now, if Jedrick Willis can get back to what he was before injury, then I think we're going to be perfectly fine there, to be 100% honest with you. But even with trying to bet on Braxton Jones, Theo Benedict, who had some moments last year also, right? Like all these things are still shaking out to where you can't overlook that for the Chicago Bears and just assume it's going to work out, right? So Karen Amagaje is still on the roster, right? Say that for what you will. So, an offensive line is it can only be sometimes as good as its weakest link. And so now when you have guys that we're trying to bring in, Jedrick Willis, if he's healthy, I think he's going to be damn good. But that's still a question, right? Braxton Jones, has he made a step or any improvements, which we haven't really seen from him over the course of his career? So why think that that's going to happen now? Then you have also Logan Jones. Is he eventually take over from Garrett Bradbury as that starting center, which we have him penciled in as the starting center of the future. So we want to start seeing some of that, right? So and then all that, you still got Luke Newman, another guy that can still help out the Chicago Bears. So I don't want to just go into another season assuming with two major changes. Losing Drew Dahlman is a major change. Ozzy Trapilo was really important for the Chicago Bears team as he grew, and we saw that development there. So I don't want to just assume it, but I think that it's fair to ask a question on, are they going to be able to repeat the performance that we saw from them last year? Because if they don't, it's going to be, a tough season. So much of what we were able to do passing-wise, so much of what we were able to do in the run game and have the run support that we did, it all came down to having the solid offensive line that we had last year. And so I think that that's still a question for this team also. And then one of the other questions too, like not an official question I had on this list, but like what steps does Caleb Williams make? Because if Caleb Williams makes that step up to where he is a more efficient quarterback paired with our wide receivers not dropping the ball as much, you're talking about a player that could very well have an MVP caliber season for the Chicago Bears this year. And that's not hyperbole. He can legitimately have that season. And if he does, how much does that transcend some of the shortcomings of the Chicago Bears and help us overcome some of that? Those are the questions that you want to ask there. And we'll see. Those are the big ones going into training camp and those type of things. And we'll see what's going to happen with the Chicago Bears roster. I still trust the coaching staff wholeheartedly. And let's see how they can coach this up. But let me know what you guys think on that down below. It is Friday. That means it is Mailbag Day here at Chicago Bears Central. Let's get into these voicemails that we got, man. This first one that we have, this one's from Dwayne.
Hey, Mr. Haize. Hey, this is Dwayne here in El Paso, Texas. I'm originally a South Slider from 111th and Western. I just want to talk about this defensive end or lack of a defensive line that we drafted. I just got to say, after last year's draft, we have to trust Ben Johnson and DA. We just do. Because if you were to tell me last year, while we had Cole Kmet, Rome Odunze, and DJ Moore on the team, our first two picks was going to be two pass catchers in Loveland and Burden, I would have threw my hat at the TV. Now I'd be looking a fool if that was the case, because Loveland and Burden, they're going to be with the Bears a long time and look like they're going to be really good for us. So we just have to trust Ben Johnson. We got Odangbo, and he's looking like the defensive end signing of Nate Davis. It's not looking good for us. I know every team has holes, but I'm not relying on Odangbo coming off an Achilles, Grady Jarrett an injury, Shamar Turner an injury. I think Kyle Gordon is going to play a significant role in the defense along with that new kid we got at safety, man. So I don't think we need to go out and sign anybody like Cam Jordan. Was he 37 years old? And I think the last 3 years his QB pressures have decreased significantly. So I wouldn't look to that either. I would just trust that Ben's making the right picks. He's got Cole Kmet's future replacement. He's got a center that's going to take over probably, if not late this year, next year, to grow with Caleb. And I mean, last draft was a hit, man. Like I said, Loveland, Bird, and Manungai, Trapilo. I don't want Bears fans to start getting crazy. We don't have a defensive line. Every team has holes. But if we're able to put up 28 points a game and hold somebody to 24, we'll be doing all right. All right, Mr. Haize, it was good to talk to you from El Paso, Texas. CBC out.
I think trusting the coaching staff and the vision that they have is where I am too, right? Like I see the shortcomings that we have on paper, but this coaching staff did so much to coach us up during an injury-plagued season last year. Who's to say what they can do if we stay relatively healthy this year, right? So I have some confidence going into that. They have confidence apparently going into that. And if they think that this defensive line is going to be enough, I want to see it, right? Every team has flaws, as you pointed out. It's how you overcome, whether it's through scheme or whether it's through just sheer will or coaching, how do you overcome those flaws? And that's what the Bears coaches are going to really have to show this year. How can they coach to overcome the flaws that's clearly there on the Chicago Bears roster? I guess we shall see, but great voicemail there, Dwayne. Let's get into this next one, man. This one's from Dion.
Yeah, this is Dion Allen. I'm looking at Coleman Bennett highlights. He's about 5'11", 200. He plays bigger. He plays taller. I think he needs to lower his pass, but he's an undrafted free agent. His balance is ridiculous. His feet, his stutter step is really nice. It's above average. Nice acceleration. I don't know about down like distance speed, The acceleration is real nice. He got a lot of make you miss. He can catch. He looks big enough to block. I mean, he looks big enough to throw some blocks is what I mean. He's a tough runner. Just fit in real good. Roshan, he needs to be worried because this guy can take a spot. He's pretty good. I think a comparison for him, though, oh, man. My first time looking at his highlights, I said Matt Forte because I thought he was taller and a little bigger. But no, I can't say Matt Forte. He's smooth. He got that in him, though. He got that in his game, but he's not that. You know what I'm saying? He's not that guy. Not Forte. But he's pretty good. I mean, this guy looks like he can. I don't know. This guy, I don't want to get too excited, but he's a starter. He looks like he can be a starter. He looks like he can be better than that if he get more touches. But undrafted, it's just ridiculous. Like, the scouts are really out here scouting. Ryan Poles, I appreciate the talent and his talent in scouting. But this guy was undrafted. It's ridiculous. The 6th round, the 7th round, I think he was 6th or 7th. That defensive tackle, he was pretty good too to be that late in the draft. They doing their job. I really appreciate that. After 40-some years of watching Chicago Bears football, we got some real scouts now. I really like that. But, with all that being said, though, Chicago up there now.
Coleman Bennett does look like a very solid UDFA option for the Chicago Bears. And even when I covered him and I was going through all the UDFAs and I covered him, I even said, like, hey, this guy could very well be a guy that could pass up Roschon Johnson. This could be a Roschon Johnson replacement. Now, I'm not where you are in talking about somebody who can, you'll be a starter. I don't know that. If that was seen around the NFL, he probably would have got drafted. But the running back position is one that there's always some undiscovered talent. Like, you look at what Kyle Monangai did as a 7th round pick, and many Bears fans didn't think he would be able to come in and help the team as much as he did. So, don't count out anything. We'll see. But I do like Coleman Bennett, and I think overall the Chicago Bears did a pretty damn good job. We got 6 out of the top 10 UDFAs that were ranked. Let's see at which of any of these guys can actually make the team or at least stay around on the practice squad and see if they're worth the development. But Coleman Bennett looks like a really good guy to invest in for sure. All right, let's get into this next one, man. This one's from Darius.
What's going on, guys? Darius from Dallas, man. Just want to talk about a few things real quick. First thing being, I don't know why nobody is talking about that boy that we got from Georgia Tech. Van Den Berg. Hell, I don't know. I feel like I done C-dubbed it now, but you know what I'm talking about. The defensive tackle from Georgia Tech, man. I just like the way he plays, dude. I mean, he didn't play in some small, rinky-dink college. Y'all act like the dude went to that American Conference or like he's playing Bowling Green twice a year or something. Like, the dude went to a decent conference as far as competition, and it looked like he played pretty good. So I don't think we just slap the automatic, he's just going to be a rotational depth piece. Like, we don't know that, okay, because our defensive line was ass. So it ain't going to be hard for him to beat anybody we got on that offensive line right now. So I would just say, man, don't roll my boy Van Den Berg out because he's aggressive. He plays hard. I like the way he moves his hands and his feet. And I like the level of the leverage he plays with. I like a lot about him, man. He looks like a old school Chicago Bears blue collar defensive tackle to me. And last thing I want to talk about, man, is I guess I'm gonna piggyback a little bit on what Haize said about, Bears fans. Do y'all just ever get tired of not having an original thought? Because it's just like, how many times we went through this same thing last offseason, bro, with y'all. Okay? Now, I admit, I was a little bit down on the Colston Loveland pick initially, but once I saw that the kid was a baller, hey, I ain't got no problem, man. I was wrong about that. But y'all just willing to die on his heel, man. It's fucking weird, dude. And what y'all do is y'all sit up and y'all watch 670 The Score, and y'all follow your little Facebook groups and your little blogs, and whatever you see, you just regurgitate that and repeat it, man. That's all you do. Y'all ain't got no original thoughts. You just blurt negative shit without giving a solution as to what your forklift driving ass would have done instead. Like you can just make a way better decision than Ryan Poles, and you're driving the forklift or doing data entry. Shut the fuck up, man. Texas up, bear down.
Jordan Van Den Berg, he's definitely somebody that the coaching staff seems really excited about. They feel like they got a steal in the 6th round. I love how you pointed out Kyle Monangai with that because, when we drafted Kyle Monangai, not a lot of people until they started watching the tape felt like that. And so I know that in my evaluation of Jordan Van Den Berg, I did say like, hey, maybe he ends up being a career backup, but like, don't put a cap on a player, right? Like to your point, you're absolutely right. He fits in with where the Bears want to go scheme-wise. He brings the speed. He is going to compete. He's going to bring all those things. And I definitely think that, we could see somebody that does surprise Bears fans and what he's able to bring as a rookie and maybe into the future as well. So we'll see. As far as the Bears fans hopping on the negative bandwagon, it's so true. Like some Bears fans haven't had an original thought in their lives. They just go off of what they either see on other podcasts, what the social media thing is, and just what it just snowballs. It's a snowball effect, right? And it's silly, it's stupid, but, it is what it is. That's a part of every fandom. You're going to have that part when it comes down to it. But, those were probably the best words that you ever spoke on. I love also how you called yourself out and said, and this isn't me to call you out, but, you called Ben Johnson Matt Nagy 2.0. You had to come around to that. You didn't believe in Kyle Monangai. I think, and if Bears fans are more honest with themselves, there's been a little bit of that for everybody at different points in their fandom. Let's just go out here and see what the guys can show us. I think that's a fair place to be in. All right, let's get into this next one, man. This one's from Vaughn.
Hey, what's going on, Haize? This is Vaughn from Indianapolis. Just wanted to call and talk about the Ed situation from a podcast earlier this week, specifically. I'm a Poles fan, but I think it's inexcusable what he's done or not done on the edge in his 4 years. I mean, he's drafted Dom, Rob, and Booker, and those are 2 fifth-round picks, and one is a converted wide receiver. The other defensive line picks have been Dexter and Pickens. Again, Pickens was horrible. Dexter is average at best. I'm just sick of hearing this is the way our board fell. Sometimes you make things happen. Gabe Yakus went a few picks before 57. I think at 55, I think the Patriots jumped up and got him because they were even behind the Bears in the 2nd round. So I'm just tired of this. I do like Roush. I even like the wide receiver / kick returner out of LSU. He's definitely not Velus. He looks like he doesn't fight the ball, and he's got good route running ability. And the way kickoffs are nowadays, I think it makes sense to have somebody like him. But not when you have greater needs. Roush is going to set things up for them to move on for Kmet, but he's going to be playing the same number of snaps as Durham Smythe probably this year. So when you have so many needs, I'm confused by what they're doing unless they have a move, coming up with Thibodeau or something like that. But I'm pretty disgusted by it, and I think Poles should catch more hell for it. Another guy who seems to be getting a pass is Dennis Allen. You hear everybody in the media talk about, oh, this is what DA wants. This is what DA will. What? Maybe DA needs to be questioned about what you want. Or maybe Poles needs to say, listen, motherfucker, I'm going to give you what you got, and we're going to have like a rush specialist, on 3rd down, a Cassius Howe, somebody a little undersized. You need to make it work. Because I'm tired of these big ends that have no bend, no burst around the edge. And, again, living in Indianapolis, if you're going to score all the points that they want to score and teams are going to be playing catch-up, you put them in passing situations, then you got to make them uncomfortable. The Bears' defensive line won't make anybody uncomfortable. Right here in Indianapolis, I saw Freeney and Mathis, you could run on them, but when it was time to close the game, they made your life, hell, or when you were playing comeback. And I don't know if the Bears personnel up front is conducive to, holding big leads because, who's bringing the hell around the corner? So that's all I got to say, bro. Keep up the great work. Talk to you later. Peace.
I think it just comes down to the fact that this team has a huge faith in the leap that Austin Booker can make. It feels like the coaching staff has a huge faith in that. And, I get it. Like, there's a lot of reason to be doubtful and negative. And, as you pointed out, like Ryan Poles hasn't really over his years addressed the defensive line in a way that a lot of us would want to see. But, like, Gervon Dexter's solid. He's a solid starter. Now, is he an irreplaceable starter? He hasn't shown that yet, but he's a solid starter, right? And I think that, could Jordan Van Den Berg be another one of those guys? Maybe, right? Like, but, at the end of the day, it's this. Every team is going to have a flaw. You're not going to build a perfect team. And what the Bears did is they went out and got guys that fit their scheme and fit their system, and they did those type of things. If that's what they believe in, that's what they believe in. We're going to see how that ends up working out for this team overall, but I think a big part of it is the scheme part of it, and they think through scheme, it can lead through some things that they may lack talent-wise, and we just got to see if that's going to end up being the case. All right, let's get into this last voicemail for today, man. This one's from Keys.
Yo, what's the deal, fellas? It's your boy Keys, man. Hope all is well with you guys. With that being said, let's get to it. So the draft is passed and it's gone. And I'll say this. I think they took the best player available a little bit too high. But as I've gone and done my research on these guys, I love the Dylan Thieneman. I love the Logan Jones pick. Those are two guys that I believe are going to be contributors immediately and be starters, and they're going to help us catapult what we need offensively and defensively at that positions. All right. I'm studying more of the Dennis Allen scheme. It seems to look like he wants that positional versatility with his DBs, with his corners and his safeties and stuff like that, and the nickel. And that's probably like the backbone, because I'm thinking about when they had Marshawn Lattimore and Tyrann Mathieu and all those guys like that. They were so interchangeable that they were able to make some stops on the receivers and the tight ends. So I do see that being the backbone of the team right now. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. All right. And I'm looking at the D-line. Now, Ben Johnson must have a lot of faith in his coaching, which I do. In some parts I do agree with, because coaching does matter. And when you have better coaching and everything like that, it should make your players better. Now, the effort is on the players, all right? I'm going through that right now, coaching my little team, you know what I'm saying? But the effort is through the players. The coaches can only get you so far. Coach you up, tell you what to do. And I think one of the guys that they picked in the draft who's going to probably fit the scheme, and I think this year he might be our Kyle Manon guy, is Jordan Van Den Berg. Watching him playing 1 and 3 technique, interchangeable on the D-line, consistent pressure, quick feet, good hands, strong as hell. I think he might be that guy, because Gervon Dexter, they got to decide if they're going to pay him or they're going to let him walk in free agency. So with Van Den Berg, I'm not asking him to, be like the world's greatest defensive tackle, but I am asking him to be a key contributor on this D-line and what we need. And I feel like in order for us to get where we need to go, the pressure really has to come from the defensive tackles. Everybody's looking at defensive end because of the sacks and the numbers, and I agree with some of that. But if you got really good defensive tackles, that makes the defensive ends' jobs that much more easier and that much more better. So I'm really excited to see what Van Den Berg does. With that being said, let me know what you guys think as always. Shots on up, bear down, y'all.
I think all the guys that we draft fit the scheme. And I think that was a clear focus on getting scheme and play style focuses, and that's what they wanted to do, and that's what they did here. They found guys that fit the scheme, they got guys that fit the style, and they got guys that did that. So we'll see. Right now, I do disagree in the sense that you said that, a lot of the pressure is going to come from interior and the defensive line. I think when you look at Dennis Allen's scheme, it's actually how he uses his defensive backs. I think how he brings in backs as a linebacker, how you use them in the run game. I think that's the thing that makes Dennis Allen's scheme different. I think that's where they could be looking at really making that necessarily step forward and that leap. And is that you're going to have your healthy defensive backs, which you didn't have last year, and you're going to see a very creative use of those defensive backs. And maybe that helps create that separation that the Bears are looking for. And if it does, great. So be it, right? So that's my thought process there. But great voicemail, Keys. As always, I love how you call things out and you point things out. We just got to see what's going to happen there. But for what it's worth, the Bears draft gave us some answers, but still left us with some big questions. And the questions now we get to see as we take the football field, how much of those questions are answered through coaching and things that we may not expect. So the question I want to throw to you guys in this one: how's your faith in the vision that Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles has for this team? Where do you stand on it? Let me know that down below. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. You can follow us at Shy Bear Central on every social media platform. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearCentral@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.